السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته. الحمد لله والصلاة والسلام على رسول الله وعلى آله وأصحابه أجمعين وسلم تسليما كثيرا. بارك الله فيكم everyone for coming down today. Alhamdulillah, we have with us our Ustad Abu Tamim Ibrahim Al-Mubtasim, who, for those who have been following us on our journeys and our lectures this year, would have benefited much from him and his lectures and his reminders throughout our series, and benefited from his lessons and his giving his time. And alhamdulillah, we'll have the opportunity to have him again today to deliver this talk on a guide to marriage in Islam. And the Ustad, inshallah, he'll be going through some very important points pertaining to before a person seeks marriage, what a person does when they're married, and how to maintain a lasting marriage in light of the Quran and the Sunnah. So without further ado, I'll pass it on to our staff to begin, inshallah. Barakallahu feekum.
إن الحمد لله نحمده ونستعينه ونستغفره ونعوذ بالله من شرور أنفسنا ومن سيئات أعمالنا من يهده الله فلا مضل له ومن يضلل فلا هادي له وأشهد أن لا إله إلا الله وحده لا شريك له وأشهد أن محمدا عبده ورسوله صلى الله عليه وعلى آله وصحبه وسلم تسليما كثيرا أما بعد. I'm always happy to meet my brothers and sisters from this ISOC, and I always praise you as it's deserving to be praised, and Allah knows best. But the efforts that you have in the da'wah and teaching the people al-Islam, we ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to reward you immensely, and that He makes this gathering of those gatherings that the angels, they come and they seek forgiveness for us, and that we are mentioned in a gathering that is much better than this gathering, and that is the gathering that is with Allah Azza wa Jal. So when I do receive that invitation, it always pleases me to see some of the common faces, that those who are trying their best to stay firm in times where we are only getting closer to the hour, where times holding on to religion, as the Prophet ﷺ informed us, would be like holding on to hot coal. We are seeing signs of these times coming, and we are seeing even that there's a great number of Muslims, even within our surroundings, when it comes to those times where we try to benefit and remember Allah, those numbers decrease. And this is something that we are to show gratitude to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala for, because it's Allah who has guided us to want to seek knowledge. It is Allah Azza wa Jal who facilitates for us these gatherings. And from our gratitude is that we take what we learn and we use it in obedience to Allah Azza wa Jal. That it's not a proof against us, that it's a proof for us. And that we take that which we learn and we share it as much as possible. As the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam said, "Ballighu anni walau ayah." Propagate regarding me, even if it's just one ayah. That if you understand that ayah, you have studied it, you understand what it means, what Allah wants you to understand from, you share this with other people. That you can seek that reward, because you don't know. You may give one word, one benefit, and you don't know who acts upon that benefit. You don't know who acts upon that benefit. Yet that is something that weighs heavy on your scale. You may give one piece of advice to one person or on your social media account, and you don't know who it impacted to the point they spend their night making dua for you. You don't know. And this is why the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, he said, "Inna al-abda la yatakallamu bi kalimatin min ridwanillah la yulqi laha balan fayarfa'u Allahu biha darajat." That in this part of the hadith, the Prophet Muhammad ﷺ, he said, a worshipper of Allah will say something that is pleasing to Allah, yet they don't give it much concern. Yet it's something that Allah has recorded and raises their rank until Yawm al-Qiyamah just from that one word. That it might be that one word you said with ikhlas, sincerity, to benefit the people, or to teach someone something beneficial. That one word you say, or sharing that benefit, will be that thing that raises you in rank on Yawm al-Qiyamah. So we ask Allah Azza wa Jal to make us from them. And we ask Allah Azza wa Jal to make our knowledge beneficial. and fruitful of action. And in our topic of discussion today is a topic of great concern, especially among the younger generation. And if we look at today, and even only 5 years ago, a lot has changed. A lot has changed. And many people are seeking marriage. Many people are in pursuit of marriage. But how many people actually understand the seriousness of marriage? As this is of the greatest contracts that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has placed between the ummah. And that is the contract of marriage. This contract of marriage, from it comes families, comes lineage, comes shu'ub wa aqwam, nations and peoples come from one contract that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has favored this ummah with. And this is also of the things that the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wasallam looks forward to boasting about, as we'll come to mention inshallah ta'ala within the talk. But why do we have to talk about this topic at this time in our life? Even if a person is not pursuing marriage right now, there's going to come a time you're going to pursue marriage. But you have to ask yourself, are you really ready for marriage? Not because it's a discussion we have with our friends, in our free time, in the caf, in the masjid on Fridays. It seems nice to talk about. Are you actually ready for marriage? Because marriage is another stage in a person's life. We go through different phases. When we are young, we are learning those fundamentals that eventually you're going to have to establish, from the salah, from the worship of Allah Azza wa Jal, learning how to fast. And then we have that time when we reach the age of bulugh, the age of puberty, where this starts to become practical. It's now a responsibility. So during your young age, you have a responsibility of maintaining the obligations that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has obligated upon you. Believe it or not, this is part of your preparation for marriage. And you'll come to see how. I'll give an example. When a person looks for marriage, of the core things that they look for is what? What is the primary things a person is looking for when it comes to marriage? Who can tell me? Deen. Your practice of the religion. When does that start? Does it start when you say, yep, it's time, I'm ready to get married? Is that when your practice of religion starts? No. Because this is the thing that you are to be known for. So when that reference comes from the anonymous friend, yes, the anonymous friend, your friends may be speaking about you. It's a time it's allowed to backbite. They may be saying the worst of you because it's necessary. Or they may be saying the best of you because this is a practice that you've been known for and you are established upon. So this pursuit of marriage, it starts from a young age. That you are preparing yourself. How? The most important thing before you have a relationship with anyone else is that you make sure your relationship with Allah Azza wa Jalla is correct. Before you start a relationship with anyone else, the primary relationship is the relationship you have with Allah. Because some people deceive themselves. And we're going to take this lesson as an advice, not as a general, just a lecture. It's more than that. It's an advice. And it's not an advice from a sheikh, it's an advice from your older brother. That's how I want you to see this talk today. As your older brother in Islam, my advice to you, as those who are younger than me, who I see as my brothers in Islam, and we love each other for this sake, and someone who has female relatives, or sisters, mums, that we only want the best for each other. The most important thing when it comes to marriage is your relationship with Allah. Everybody wants Khadija and everybody wants Abu Bakr, radiallahu anhuma. But how are you in comparison to them? You say you want the best of women, you say you want the best of men. But how are you as an individual? You see? Because Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala created mankind from one person. Allah created Adam alayhi salam, and from Adam created his wife. And this is where we get the word zawj from. Zawj is things that come in pairs. And when the ulama discuss az-zawjiyya, hayat az-zawjiyya, the marital life, this is two people that make one. Two people that become one. You become one soul, one heart, one home. This is the benefits of hayat az-zawjiyya. Now that relationship, what is it based upon though? Because as we mentioned, the first thing that you need to be looking for is what? Ad-deen. Your religion. Because this is what is going to attract a person to you in the first place. In general, people are attracted by looks. But these are of the things that we are going to speak about today, that people are deceived by. How is a person deceived by looks? Imagine, for example, I'm going to choose someone randomly. What's your favorite cuisine? Food? Arab food. Shawarma. Cool. Shawarma. Nice grilled shawarma, yeah? Of the things that attract you to that shawarma is how it looks. Let's say you had a shawarma. It's the best shawarma. You've been told it's the best shawarma. But when this shawarma was served to you, it was served to you on tissue in a dog tray. You're going to understand what I'm getting at shortly. This shawarma, as his favorite cuisine, some people like Chinese. So if your favorite cuisine is Chinese, imagine it was served on tissue in a dog tray. Does that still look like your favorite meal? Do you still share the same attraction to that thing? It's the best thing, but it's surrounded by what? That which is displeasing. You see? This is the likes of the person who is attractive, but their akhlaq is disgusting. You see? If you make this thing your best thing, the priority is how a person looks, but then they have evil mannerisms. Su al-adab. They don't speak in a nice way. This is going to be something beautiful surrounded by rubbish. You see? So this is why you see the deen, the actual implementation of the religion, it covers many aspects of life. Your character. One, because when we speak about the deen, this is the rights between you and Allah Azza wa Jal. The rights that you have upon yourself and the rights that other people have upon you. So if the first one is corrupted, the relationship, as I've been emphasizing, between you and Allah, every relationship is going to be corrupted. Just like the salah. The salah is of the most important things. Because if the salah is corrupted, all of your actions are corrupted. If you don't pray, don't expect to get married to someone who's good. If you don't pray, do not expect to get married to someone who's good. Because this is the thing that is the contract between you and Islam. Yes, the one who doesn't pray, the strongest opinion is that you're a kafir. It's not for me to say you're a kafir though. Just know that if you die in that state, perhaps you'll be raised as a kafir. Why? Because the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, he said, "Al-ahdu alladhi baynana wa baynahum as-salah faman tarakaha faqad kafar." The covenant, the contract that is between us and them, the disbelievers, is the salah. So whoever leaves it has disbelieved. Has disbelieved. So if you do not uphold your relationship with Allah, do not expect to be able to uphold a relationship with anyone else. And this is what I advise everyone to look for first. Even down to how the person walks. How a person walks is going to tell you so much about their character. Even the clothing that they wear. These things, some people take it for granted. But it's important. Because a person's dress reflects their character. A person's walk reflects their character. And this is why, of the best advices Allah has given us in the Quran, if you want to know how you should be as a person, go and ponder over the advice of Luqman to his son. The first thing he told him, your relationship with Allah, tushrik billah. Don't associate partners with Allah. That's the priority. And then obedience to your parents. Yes, when you're interested in someone for marriage, look at the relationship with their parents. If a brother does not respect his mom, he will never respect you as a woman. If a sister does not have a good relationship with their father, they are not used to being informed of some things with some sort of authority. And when we speak about this issue of women and men in marriage, there's also a misconception that we will address. We will address, inshallah ta'ala. So in terms of marriage, Allah Azza wa Jalla says in the Quran, وَمِنْ آيَاتِهِ أَنْ خَلَقَ لَكُم مِّنْ أَنفُسِكُمْ أَزْوَاجًا لِتَسْكُنُوا إِلَيْهَا وَجَعَلَ بَيْنَكُمْ مَوَدَّةً وَرَحْمَةً إِنَّ فِي ذَلِكَ لَآيَاتٍ لِقَوْمٍ يَتَفَكَّرُونَ. In Surah Al-Rum, ayah number 21. When Allah says this in the English rendering, and from His signs, from the signs that Allah has shown us, and also ayat in this ayah, it means from the bounties, the ni'am, from the virtues of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala upon this ummah, is that He has made from ourselves our spouses. And this goes back to what I mentioned with Adam and Hawa. Allah created Hawa from Adam alayhi salam. From you, your spouses. Why? Because this lam, litashkunu, this is called lam at-ta'lil in the Arabic language. Why? This is the reason, al-illa, the reason why Allah has created from yourselves your spouses. Litashkunu ilayha. What does this mean? In order that you find sakina and tranquility and sakan, a place that is a home. So from the hikmah that Allah has created from ourselves, our spouses, is in order for us to find tranquility in our life, somewhere to call home. This is from the hikmah. Now what does this mean? When we have friends, I look at my friend and I take my friend based on characteristics that they have. When I look to my friends, I love my friend, I have a close relationship with my friend due to those beautiful characteristics I find in them. Because had you not had those characteristics, you wouldn't be my friend. Because I have certain demands, natural demands that my soul is inclined to. I find certain characteristics in a person attractive, hence why I would take that person as a friend. You see, if you're someone who doesn't like talking loud, people who talk loud, your friends are not going to be those who talk loud because that's something you don't like. So already you're going to find something that makes you have no attraction to a person. So when we say al-hayat al-zawjiyya, we mentioned it's two things that make something one. Some of us, and I hope for everyone, the majority have never had a relationship before in that context. Some of us may have been married before, and qadr of Allah is it came to an end. Why is this ayah so important in that initial phase of looking for marriage? Because as we mentioned, Allah has created the spouses from ourselves in order for us to find tranquility. So when you know there's some characteristics you like in your friends, this is the kind of things you look for in your spouse. You like someone who is kind, compassionate, gentle, friendly, can hold a good conversation. This is what you chose your friends upon. So what are you going to look for when you're looking for a spouse? The opposite. Doesn't make sense. So a part of aiding you in finding out what you want in a spouse is looking at your friends. And not just all your friends, your closest friends. Because your spouse is going to become your friend, your best friend, the one who knows you more than anyone else. This is the importance of knowing what are you looking for. Because of those things that we can look for when it comes to marriage, there are 4 things. Who can tell me what they are? Some of them. Religion, beauty, wealth, status. 3 things that people have that are not everlasting. Wealth, you might be tested with poverty. You might lose all your wealth, become poor. So what happens if you marry just for wealth? And the next thing you know, your spouse is broke. Khalas, does that mean your marriage comes to an end? For some, unfortunately, yes. Because that was the sole purpose of why they look for marriage. Beauty. We get old. Sometimes we get a bit comfortable. Sometimes you can tell a brother's married because the weight increase is a bit drastic. And the excuse is, yeah, I've got a good household, akhi. Alhamdulillah, we're eating every day. No more sandwiches for packed lunch. I'm getting full meals. And things change. So maybe when your wife married you, you didn't look that way. So that attraction is lost. You see? Or as we get older, we go through some changes. A woman has children, they go through some changes. So what you found attractive at one stage may no longer be attractive. So does that mean, okay, khalas, I'm no longer attracted to you? That's it? No. And then status. In contemporary times, sometimes our status is based on the job that we have. It's not necessarily based on your family lineage, where you come from. In some cultures, yes, it's based on your family status. Your particular tribe may have a certain status in the community. So you'll get married on that basis, because it's deemed as an aib that you marry someone from a lesser tribe. These things are to be taken into consideration when it comes to marriage, and they are valid considerations. But when you make that your sole means of marriage, that does not necessitate that you have a happy marriage life. And that's why the Prophet Muhammad said, "Fadfar bidhat ad-din, taribat yadak." Choose, be fortunate with the one who possesses religion, and your hands will be filled with dust. What does it mean that your hand is filled with dust? For those who have gone to the beach, sometimes you just take a handful of the sand. How much of it stays in your hand? Minimal. Hardly any of it. This is like the issues that you'll get in your marriage life. The problems you'll have in your marriage life. It's just like that handful of sand that you try to pick up. It just falls out. Because you have someone who possesses deen. Because then you have a common factor that you judge by. You see? Someone's practicing. They pray. They fear Allah. The spouse isn't practicing. Someone says fear Allah. You might hear, be quiet. Go talk to yourself. Don't watch me. Don't judge me. But someone says fear Allah. It's like, oh, yes, I've crossed the line maybe. Now we have a common factor between us. Because when Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala talks about making islah, reconciliation between the Muslims, the first thing that a person is reminded with is what? At-taqwa. The first thing Allah reminds us to do is to fear Allah. Now, when you've reminded someone to fear Allah, and they've submitted to this now, I have to behave a certain way. Now you can advise them. This issue you have, it needs to come to an end. You are both Muslim. Prophet said you can't abandon your brother 3 days. has to come to an end. What is that driving factor that allows you to make peace? At-taqwa. So imagine the life between husband and wife. Isn't that not in greater need? Because you're more likely to fall out much more times than with your friends. And sometimes over something so silly. When you look back, you'll be like, subhanAllah, is that it? It's not that deep. But the thing that will aid you to even sit down and have that means of mutual understanding is taqwa of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And with deen, it comes knowledge. The more a person knows, they will know how to deal with certain situations. The more a person knows, they will know how to deal with certain situations. So, in this ayah, when Allah Azza wa Jal, He says, وَمِنْ آيَاتِهِ أَنْ خَلَقَ لَكُم مِنْ أَنفُسِكُمْ أَزْوَاجًا لِتَسْكُنُوا إِلَيْهَا. The first pillar of Hayat al-Zawjiyah, the first pillar of a marital life is that you find tranquility, that you find sakina. The next thing that you look for, that you'll gain from a good marital life is al-mawadda. Al-mawadda is love. The best form of love that a person has is the love for the sake of Allah Azza wa Jal. There is no love better than this love. That you love a person for Allah's sake. And this goes back to the deen as well. This goes back to what? The religion. Why? Because the more a person is practicing, this is more reason for you to love them. You will love them more. If someone's known for goodness, for being a good practicing Muslim, their akhlaq is good. Every time they see you, they're smiling. When you're in need, they aid you. You need advice, they advise you. You will naturally take love to this person. Whenever you sit around this person of knowledge, for example, you feel an increase in your iman. So when that increase of iman happens because of those reminders that you get, you take a love to that person. Your heart becomes inclined to that person. This is what you're in need of in marriage. And this is from those pillars of a happy marriage life that Allah has mentioned within this ayah. Also, wa rahmah, mercy, compassion. Sometimes a person is more tolerant with their friends than they are with their spouses. For those who are not married, you may experience this. Because you don't know your spouse as you know your friends sometimes. Sometimes your friends, you've had a relationship 10 plus years. They've been there in all times, hard times, good times. But then you make an excuse for them when they do something wrong. Or they didn't mean it. They might even do something really wrong, really oppress you, but you make an excuse for them. You're in more need of this in your marital life. When that time comes, you are to be merciful. Allah also says, وَلَهُنَّ مِثْلُ الَّذِي عَلَيْهِنَّ بِالْمَعْرُوفِ وَلِلرِّجَالِ عَلَيْهِنَّ دَرَجَةٌ. Allah says in the English rendering of this, and for them is similar to that which is upon them from goodness. And this is very important. وَلِلرِّجَالِ عَلَيْهِنَّ دَرَجَةٌ. And for the men over them is another level. And I'm going to explain why I said another level and not a virtue. Because this does not mean men and women are equal. No. Men and women, no matter how much people try to enforce this ideology and this concept, can never be equal. Why? Because Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has created them in a natural state that they are different. Does this mean that one is better than the other? No. What it means here, when Allah says, وَلَهُنَّ مِثْلُ الَّذِي عَلَيْهِنَّ بِالْمَعْرُوفِ. And for them, for the women, is just like what is upon them. So Allah has made between us rights. So as the man has rights, the woman has the same rights. Sometimes there is a difference, and that is the daraja. What has Allah given over the men? They have a responsibility that they are the ones who are responsible for the well-being of the wife. That is what refers to as وَلِلرِّجَالِ عَلَيْهِنَّ دَرَجَةٌ. And for the men over the women is another level. The man, the husband, is responsible for living arrangements, clothing, sustenance, food, and the likes. This is what is upon the man. This is the daraja. So why do we say this? This is so important because, as I've emphasized earlier as well, the zawaj, it makes you one. Some people, when they get married, they believe that their spouse, their wife, especially because it's men who do this, they believe that their wife is a slave. Yes. It's upon my wife. I want tea, hadir. I want food, I'm coming home, make sure that's hot. You want to go out? Nah, forget that. You got invited to a walima? I don't care, you're not going. They've taken a slave girl. They haven't taken a wife. And this is very important. As you want to be treated well, you are to treat your wife well. And as for the wife, if you want to be treated well, you treat your husband well. You have to respect one another. This control thing that some people have. I've known situations, a sister is not allowed to go to a walima ever. And we know from Islam, you have to answer the invitation. From the rights of another Muslim is when you're invited, you answer the invitation. Unless you have a valid reason that you can't. But some husbands, they have a control thing, and it's based on insecurity. It's based on insecurity because of the doubts that they have built within their own life, their own head. And this is why it's important when you're choosing your spouse, in the pursuit of choosing your spouse, know what you yourself are looking for, not your friend. You shouldn't even talk to your friend about what they look like and all these things. That don't concern none of them. The things that you like about them don't concern your friends because you're looking for your wife. That jealousy of your potential wife has to start from before you even get married. You're not marrying a person because your friend likes them. Your friend should marry them then. Why are you marrying them? I would be concerned. My friend's like, yeah, Aki, that sister is very nice. And I'm like, bro. Or if it's the other way around, like, yeah, I'm trying to get married to him. Like, what are you doing? There has to be some sort of jealousy and self-respect. And that's why I said there's transitions in life. See, when it comes to marriage, this is a whole new thing. This is the real adulthood. This is when you can't look back. This is when sometimes you was going 4 days a week with your friends to a restaurant. That can't happen no more. This might be on Friday, boy, I'm staying till masjid till the midnight. That might not be able to happen anymore. It might be, I was on the phone to my sis for hours. That may not be able to happen anymore. Are you ready for this transition? You see, this is a part of the preparation. I'll give you an example. I was in the masjid the other day, and I've come to know of a brother that I don't know him, but I'm aware of his circumstance because he's made me aware. He's not settled as having a home, definitely not settled financially, new to Islam, doesn't know anything about Islam, but he said to me, Akhi, can you advise me about marriage? Like, I want to get married. It's rough. All my friends said, yeah, if it's rough, you just get married. This is a major issue today. As the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, he said, and Abdullah bin Mas'ud radiallahu anhu, قال لنا رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم يا معشر الشباب من استطاع منكم الباء فليتزوج فإنه أغض للبصر وأحصن للفرج ومن لم يستطع فعليه بالصوم فإنه له وجاء متفق عليه. This hadith is collected by both Bukhari and Muslim. And this is collected by Abdullah bin Mas'ud. Abdullah bin Mas'ud is of the companions who accepted Islam when he was young, in his teens. But he was known for being someone of amana, having very good qualities prior to Al-Islam. And he stayed with the Prophet Muhammad ﷺ until the Prophet ﷺ departed and met Allah and returned to Allah. And he learned over 70 surahs of the Quran directly from the mouth of the Prophet Muhammad ﷺ. And he was called Sahibu Sirrin Nabi ﷺ, the companion of the Prophet's secret. And that is because the love the Prophet Muhammad ﷺ had for Abdullah bin Mas'ud, he could enter upon the Prophet whenever he wanted. He didn't need to seek permission. He would come to the house whenever he wanted. He would take off the Prophet Muhammad ﷺ's shoes. He would bring the water for him to make wudu. He served the Prophet Muhammad ﷺ. And in this hadith, he narrates that the Prophet ﷺ said to us, the messenger said to us, advising us, Ya ma'shar al-shabab, O youth, addressing the young people, as this was a time they need to hear this advice. Man istata'a minkum al-ba'a falyatazawwaj. Al-ba'a, the ulama, اختلف العلماء في تفسير al-ba'a. The ulama differed in the meaning of this word al-ba'a. Some say it means relations, the intimacy relations between the husband and wife. That a person has reached that age where they're able to have this, then that's the age they're ready for marriage. Also, what is meant, and this was said by Imam al-Nawawi and other than him, Shaykh Islam ibn Taymiyyah mentions that it is yani ma'unna nikah, that a person has the provisions that will facilitate them to get married. And what they say, it is correct to combine between both of these definitions. The al-ba'a in this hadith, it means you have the ability to sustain a marriage, like the basic provisions. We're talking on a general level, not living luxurious and extravagance. We're talking about in general those provisions that will allow you to get married, that you have the ability to get married from, or that you have reached the age where you are able to have that type of relationship. Whoever is able to, whoever fulfills that condition, then get married. You should get married. You shouldn't delay if you don't have a reason to, unless you're just really not interested. This is a different matter. If you do not have the ability, as the Prophet ﷺ said, he didn't just leave it as that. If you're not able to, what should you do? You should fast. You should fast. For indeed, when the Prophet ﷺ said get married, he said this is a protection for a person's eyes, your gaze. You lower your gaze. You do this prior to marriage. And also, it is a safeguarding of the private parts, because this is all part of your honor. Of those wisdoms behind marriage is that it preserves a person's honor. Being known for zina is of the most disgraceful things that you can be known by. And this will destroy your honor. Even if you made tawbah, Allah may have forgiven you. But the people themselves will still have something in their heart against you, because it's not a nice characteristic. It's of the most evil traits to have. And it's worse when you have children from that. And this is why of those things that have been made sacred within Al-Islam is what? Al-ird, the honor. From the ways to preserve a person's honor is marriage, as it preserves your lineage as well. Imagine a child having to tell other people they're born from zina. Not only have you destroyed your own honor, you have affected the honor of the child. So of those means to preserve the private parts, Allah has legislated as zawaj, legislated marriage. And then he said, whoever is not able, man lam yastati' فَعَلَيْهِ بِالصَّوْمِ. Alayhi means upon him. If you don't fulfill that condition that you have the means to get married. As I mentioned, this brother, he came to me. He doesn't have a job. He's looking for work. He has nothing. He's in need. He asked me, can I help him? He's in need. So what are you going to do? Get married and ask people to spend for your household, buy your food? Your wife will never even respect you. Because that's the thing that has been mentioned here. You have the ability to do so. It sounds nice. Yeah, I want to get married. But don't put yourself in a situation you're going to regret. Don't put yourself in a situation you cannot handle. Don't punish yourself. You're meant to live a happy life when you get married. It's not meant to go worse for you. So we need to follow this advice. Why am I emphasizing this? Because nowadays you have people saying, I've been fasting. You ain't been fasting. You're still looking at everything. What part are you fasting? Just your belly. That's it. And your throat's dry. But you're still looking at haram. You're still just sitting in gatherings talking about marriage all day. So that's all you think about. Those you cannot get married. Fast. And you know, Siyam is another name for sabr. It's another name of patience. As Ibn al-Qayyim, rahimahullah, in his book, Iddat al-Sabirin, he mentions that when a person is patient upon leaving of food and drink and their desires, that's also what you're making fast of. Because when Siyam comes on Yawm al-Qiyamah to intercede for you, what does it say? I prevented him from his food, his drink, and his desires. So allow me to intercede for him. This is the benefit of Siyam. This is the goal of fasting when you cannot get married. So if you're not lowering your gaze and staying away from conversation of marriage, you're not doing it properly. This is why you haven't found the benefit. Also, if you're doing it as an experiment, I'm going to try it out. If it works, then khalas, I'll keep fasting. If not, then I'm going to stop that. There's another issue. Because you have to have firm belief that when the Prophet Muhammad SAW gave this advice, it's because it's built upon certainty that it will safeguard you. Because the thing that from the benefits, the hikmah of Siyam, what is mentioned by the scholars, it suppresses desire. Siyam suppresses one's desires. But if you're fasting, leaving off your food and drink, but then you're still looking at haram, how are you suppressing your desire? If you're still free mixing, just sitting with the opposite gender 24/7 when you're on break in the computer room and all these things, after school hours, renting a class, going in the class and it's empty, just sitting with sisters and just talking all day, building some natural love because you're like, I like how her voice is, I like how she looks, the jokes we make, we got something in common, when you shouldn't have even got there in the first place. You're only making it hard for yourself. You're only making it hard for yourself. If you cannot get married, you don't have the financial ability, or your circumstances just don't allow it right now, be someone who's fasting. Because one, you're safeguarding yourself, but two, you're getting reward from Allah Azza wa Jal. Because you're fasting. And they say, Siyam huwa alamatul ikhlas bayn al-abd wa rabbi. It is the sign of sincerity between a servant and their Lord. No one knows you're fasting except for Allah. The only time someone's going to know if you're fasting, if they offer you something, say, La, I'm fasting. But don't say, I don't have time for it. This is too much. It's difficult. We need to love these things because the goal is Jannah. These temporary desires, they all end in this world. But that zawaj, that thing that Allah has made halal and has much benefit, from that lineage come. Your children that will benefit you in Yawm al-Qiyamah come from marriage. You have to do it properly. And don't rush. So those who say, the desires are on top, get married. Don't listen to that person. Take that person's statement and dash it in the bin. Literally, you don't listen to that. You see? And if your friends always talk about, you know that sister, stay away from that people. You have to look at whom you choose your friends. I don't care how cool you think people are, it's irrelevant. You can be the coolest cat, but in Allah's eyes, you might be the worst of people. Because the Prophet Muhammad SAW said, Al-mar'u ala dini khalili, falyanzur ila man yukhalilu. A person is on the religion of their friend. So look to whom they take as their friend. That is key in general for you as a person, having good friends. You looking for marriage, look at that person's friend. If that person's friend is known for haram, you have definitely got doubt in that person. If that person is known for ghiba wa namima, stay away from that person. They're known for everything haram, backbiting, slandering. They're going to slander you while they're married to you. You be on the same bed and he's on the phone cussing you, or she's on the phone cussing you, backbiting your life, but you're meant to be husband and wife. Look to whom you take as your friend. Your friends might be the coolest guys in uni. That's not a principle of friendship. Some people have low self-esteem, and this is something to be addressed. If you don't love yourself, you can't love no one else. That's the reality. If you can't love yourself, you can't love no one else. And you have to condition yourself to be someone who's always trying to please Allah. That is of the easiest ways to build self-esteem. That you work on your relationship with Allah Azza wa Jal. If I'm doing the right thing by Allah, I don't care who don't like me. That don't concern me. I know Allah is going to give me those friends that I'm supposed to have. Because the Prophet Muhammad Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam, he had companions. There was many people from Quraysh. But Allah gave him the best of them as his companions. And the best of them as his friends. Abu Bakr as-Siddiq, Umar ibn al-Khattab. These were the companions that were closest to the Prophet Muhammad Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam. So you have to look at your friends. Because your friends also help you become a better person. If you've got good friends that always remind you of Allah, you're always going to keep yourself in check. If you've got those friends you do wrong, for example, and it happens, especially at your age group, someone's going to fight in the common room or something. Your friend's going to fight. And you're like, yeah, bang him in his jaw. Just bang him over. Not say, Akhi, fear Allah, it's not even worth it. If you don't have that kind of friend, you need to change your friend. Or sisters arguing and you're encouraging it, dividing between each other. That's not your friend. And you hear it. I heard something today when I came. I couldn't tell what it was. It's like people edge it on. As a Muslim, we don't do these things. And these things all affect your character. And your character is what you will be judged upon when it comes to seeking marriage. So if you don't have the ability to get married, you need to be fasting. And in your gatherings, don't talk about marriage. Don't talk about marriage. If you're not doing it, don't talk about it. And if you're talking about it, the only thing you're talking about is how to do it. As for your meetings or your encounters, that's between you and that person. As for what that person looks like and the likes, that's between you and that person. As for those things that you find pleasing in that person, that's between you and that person. If you're going to share it with anyone, it should be your parents. No one else. No one else. You don't want your friend to know your spouse as you know them. Because that's why I said, look for those characters that please you for why you take your friend. Because that's the characteristics you're going to look for in your spouse. Compatibility is a must. Some sisters say, I want to marry a student of knowledge. And some brothers, they talk about this topic and they say stuff like, I just know you're going to be a second wife and all this nonsense. That's not the reality. A student of knowledge is a thing that a person has committed themselves to, being a student of knowledge. A person who's a student of knowledge, I can promise you, they probably come across the hadith when the Prophet said, "Uhasinukum ahsanukum ila ahlikum." The best of you are those who best of their families, knowing that their families have rights upon them. You see? So when it comes to some people say, don't marry a student of knowledge and the likes, they make it very general. You cannot generalize individuals. Even students of knowledge, none of them are the same. They're all different levels. Even themselves, being a student of knowledge is a lifetime occupation. As Imam Ahmed said, min al-mahdi ila al-lahd, from the cradle to the grave. But that does not determine compatibility. What it does determine though, is for example, if a sister wants to marry a student of knowledge, know what you're getting yourself into. What does that mean? There may be some concepts of fun that you may be indulged in the Netflix and chill, for example, they may not be interested in that. It may never happen. So you have to ask yourself, are you looking for that in a person? Going to a theme park, going to certain places, they may not be inclined to those things. This is a part of the process of choosing your spouse. The first thing that attracts you is the religion. That should be your primary attraction to any individual, their practice of the religion. Once you're attracted to a person's religion, that doesn't mean you're khalas, I'm happy with your deen, you're happy with mine, let's get married. We have to go a bit further today because people have changed. The level of amana has gone. So you have to ask questions. You know, there's, for example, as we said, we look for characteristics that we like. You know that your friends may do some things that you don't like. There may be situations that you have experienced in your day-to-day life. You don't like those experiences. Best believe you need to ask about that. Of the best ways to find out about a person that you want to potentially get married to, write down some scenarios and have your chosen answer. This is the scenario that you can imagine may possibly occur between a husband and a wife, even if it's based on what happens between friends. You put that scenario on paper. You put a number of options of answers. From those answers is the one that you're looking for. The answer that you like, what you'd be inclined to. Then you have one that says, alarm bells, stay away from this person. It takes effort. Because the intention of marriage is not something temporary. Even if it didn't work out, the intention should never have been temporary. It was for a lifetime. So you need to make sure you've done enough and put enough things in place to know what you're getting yourself into. For example, here's a scenario you can ask, because it occurs with sisters of today. Your wife goes out with her friends or be invited to a friend's house. She said she's going to come home at 8:30. 8:30's come, she hasn't come home. Option A, 100 missed calls. Option B, my friend's wife is with her. Phone the friend. Option C, text message, I'm just hoping you're okay, just checking in, you're all right, inshallah, I'll see you when you get back. Option D, kada wa kada. You know, the 100 missed calls is alarm bells. For example, on your character, you would know this. Because as I said, it's a partnership. It's not a maid service. So as men, I can guarantee you we do the same thing. Go to the masjid or we go out with the brothers, I'm going to be home at this time. And we come home hours later. Wife's phone, oh yeah, it's just my wife, I'm going to call back later. So when it happens to you, you act like a policeman. Like you broke the law. This needs to be addressed. You've waited up those hours like this, just not even doing nothing. Since she comes in, it's on. We have to check ourselves. And this is the rahmah. I'll say, for example, these things we have to be prepared for. You have to mentally prepare for it. It's going to happen. I can promise you it's going to happen. I can promise you you're going to argue. The question is, are you ready? Are you ready to not fuel the fire? Are you ready to know there's going to be a time we're both fire? Someone's got to be water. Are you ready for these things? Because it's a reality that's going to occur. But the thing is, and I was talking to a friend of mine once, some of the things that we experienced once we got married and the likes, no one told us about. No one gave us advice. No one said, for example, you get a certain age. I think the most stressful thing in my life is paying bills. No one told me I'm going to have to pay bills. I found out when I got my own place. The reality of paying rent. The reality of always washing the dishes. Before you're in your mum's house, sometimes your mum does it, your sister does it, your brother. It's not always you. Now it's always you. oh, I need to make money because I need to have food. Some of these things, the details of these things, many people don't prepare you for it. And such is the case with marriage life. Some things are going to happen. You're going to argue. You're going to have differences. Yes, your husband and wife, it doesn't mean you're going to agree on everything. But of the most important things that preserves happiness in a marital life is communication. These are the things you need to test before you get married. How do you speak? Scenario-based questions. How would you handle this situation? You see, as I mentioned to you, it's not a thing where, oh, we're just going to make it up as we go along. Know what you want. Because you know the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, he said in the hadith, Al-Muslimu man salima al-Muslimuna min lisanihi wa yadihi. The Muslim is the one who other Muslims are safe from their tongue and their hand. The most harmful part of your body is your tongue. The most harmful part of your body is your tongue. You can sever a marriage like this in 1 second. With what? Your tongue. And this is why it's very important that you prepare yourself. Because it's easy to quit when things get difficult. It's very easy to quit when things get difficult. Everything that we do in general in our day-to-day life, sometimes you find we quit when it gets hard. We don't find that drive. But when it comes to marriage, you have to know that this is a contract that Allah has made of the most sacred contracts within Al-Islam. This is also something that children come from. And whatever happens within your household is going to affect your children. These are the things you have to prepare yourself for. When you get married and you have children, that's a whole nother phase that changes. Because you don't necessarily live for your children, but they have rights upon you that you have to fulfill. So you cannot look at your children as a burden. Some people, it's like, oh, can you watch the kids? Why, man? I just want to chill. Did you not have children as well? These are the things you have to prepare for. Those mental things that you have to be ready for. Because it's more than just walking, holding hands, going, traveling. That's all the good things. Prepare yourself mentally for what can go wrong. Prepare yourself for it. You have an argument. What do you do? Ask questions that, are you an apologetic person? Do you take ownership of your faults? These are things you need to be asking. Because sometimes we don't know what to do. We want to get married, but we don't know what we need to ask, what we need to do. These are the things you need to be asking. What's your plans? How much Quran do you know? How often do you read the Quran? Because these are the things you're going to judge a person by. You see, what do you do in your spare time? What do you like doing? Because you have to know, do we share anything in common? Do we like some of the same things? Because if someone's practicing, in terms of deen, we're going to learn this, we like the same things. But it's not always that. Because there's those things, those spark things, the things that you like to do together, the things that you like, okay, I like going traveling. I like walking in the park. I like reading. I like trying different cuisines. I like cooking. I like doing this. You need to find out about that person. Get to know that person. Because you're about to let someone in your life for a long time. This is not temporary, you see. And this is very important. Because as I mentioned, it's very easy to bring it to an end with a word. Very, very easy to bring it to an end with a word. In terms of finding a spouse, this is of the things that has become very difficult today. It's become quite complicated. In terms of, I remember, for example, about 10 years ago, my local masjid, there used to be a thing you can go and fill in a form and it asks you certain questions, even things of preference, what you like, and they will look at a sister's profile who's also filled in that form, and someone of an elder who would look at these two forms and measure some compatibility. But nowadays we don't find this. Unfortunately, we got Muzmatch, Muslima, single Muslim, halal dating sites, all this nonsense. And it's like, how do I look for a spouse now? How do I function? In general, like for example, it's harder for those who don't come from Muslim families. Myself as a revert, this is things that we experience difficulty in. Being the only Muslim in my family, I can't go to my sister saying, look, I'm looking for marriage, can you help me? Can't go to my mum, because they're like, that's nothing to do with me. But then when you're from a Muslim family, the primary contact needs to be made with your parents. Those who are responsible for you, especially as women. Because you have a wali. La nikah illa bi wali. The Prophet said this 3 times. There's no marriage except that it's done by the wali. So when you want to get married, you feel that you're ready. The first person you speak to is not your friend. The first person you speak to is your dad. The one who's responsible for you. You let him know, I'm at that time. And he has a duty that Allah has placed upon him, that he has to act upon it. Because when parents do not act upon it, and you can share this with them, when your parents do not act upon that call, this is what leads to fasad. If the daughter feels neglected from her parents in their pursuit of marriage and make conditions that are unreasonable, they will do the wrong thing. You shouldn't have profiles of marriage online before you spoke to your parents. You shouldn't be hollering at brothers or hollering at sisters in the university or the college common rooms, the chill rooms, the computer labs, and you haven't spoke to your parents first. It shouldn't be a thing, oh yeah, dad, I've been speaking to this brother, you know, and he's like, huh? I didn't even know you wanted to get married. I've got such person in line because you did not take the right steps. And then your father might respond like, whatever, I don't even want to, whatever. Then it's going to be even worse. Or brothers, you're just looking for something because it looks good. Or she's popular. So yeah, I'm talking to that one. Everyone, yeah. You want to be popular? You want everyone to know who you're talking to? All of these things you have to take into consideration. But as I mentioned, primarily, when it comes to looking for marriage, rectify your relationship with Allah. Be someone who goes to your local masjid frequently. Because sometimes the elder brothers have daughters and they're looking for someone who they feel befitting for their daughter. So they will look in the masjid. Where's the youth? Where's the one who always comes and prays in the masjid? Always in the classes. That's someone they're going to want for their daughter. And you may get that random approach. You see? But if you're not someone who's practicing, don't expect it. If you're someone who doesn't look like they uphold a good character within Islam, don't expect to get approached. Because sometimes people, they're blaming everyone except themselves. No one's helping me. Help yourself. Ask Allah. Primary things that we have to always put in first. Dua. Ask Allah to guide you to a righteous spouse. Ask Allah to facilitate for you. When you start meeting, consult Allah. Pray your istikhara. Seek advice from those who are very close to you that have knowledge, not just anyone. Allah is priority in marriage. Because sometimes when we're in a facility where it's easily accessible to just talk to each other, we forget all of these things. And you build a relationship that's not based on the deen. It's based on my soul kind of talk to you because we talk anyway. It's cool. We're always talking. You seem cool. You seem like a nice person. Or someone said a joke and it made you laugh and she laughed and you're like, that sparked a moment. I think that she likes me. Or she's like, I think he likes me too. Oh, maybe we should just get married. And in reality, you did no homework. You only know what was shown to you. Remember, when it comes to marriage, everyone's got the best CV. Everyone's on it Indeed. Uploaded CV is top. They've got someone else to help them too. It's like when you're looking at what you're good at. IT, excellent. Communication, excellent. What's the other one? Punctuality, perfect. Everyone wants to sell themselves, but you have to be real. When someone says, ask about bad habits, what would you consider to be one of your bad habits? Another way you can ask, what would you say some people have observed about your character that you need to work on? Or what are some things you know you have within your character that you need to work on? These are key questions. You see, you guys are in uni now. In general, you're at a time in life, you need to kind of make a plan. What's your plan? Because, for example, some brothers, they asked to come and sit with me. They're in uni, and they wanted advice of going to study abroad. They're your age. So the first thing I have to ask them is, do you plan on getting married? Because now, if you plan on getting married, this affects your decision. You see? When you're a student of knowledge, seeking knowledge beyond that which is wajib is what? What's the ruling? Who knows? You know, seeking knowledge is obligatory upon every Muslim. In case we didn't know. As the Prophet said, "Talab al-ilm faridatun ala kulli Muslim." Seeking knowledge is an obligation upon every Muslim. Does this mean memorize Bukhari? It means you have to learn that which is obligatory upon you. Salah, you have to learn Salah. Not just learn it by copying it, you have to know it. Because you have to know if you leave off a pillar and you don't do it, that Salah is not accepted. So you need to learn Salah, Zakat, Siyam, Hajj, 5 pillars of Islam, 6 pillars of Iman. These things you have to know. Other than this, what's the ruling? Communal obligation, yes. But individually, it's what? Mustahab, recommended. Okay, you're married now. MashaAllah, you're a student of knowledge, but you got married. Or you want to become a student of knowledge. You haven't even made that step yet. You're thinking about it. But you got married. Providing for your family. Looking after your family. What's the ruling? Who knows? Don't be shy. Think about it. What's the ruling of being a husband now? Wajib. Okay, so we got two situations. One is wajib. One is mustahab. Obviously, which one comes first? Wajib. So when I said this to the brother, he's like, oh yeah, subhanAllah. I got to rethink that one then. Because if we say, oh, I'm going to study, going to sit with the scholars, I'm going to go study overseas. This ain't no 3-month, 2-month thing. This is years. And you can't be selfish. You have to consult your wife. But even if that's your plan, and sisters, make sure you ask these questions. Because if the brother plans to do that, you have to know, are you prepared for that? Do you even want to be doing that? Say, I want to go to Mauritania. Are you ready to go to Mauritania? You want to go there too? Ask these questions. And also, brothers, you can't be like, no, I don't care. That's what I want. No, I ain't hearing it. You have to have balance. You see? These are the things that you need to talk about. Especially if you've never been married before, this is a part of you knowing what do you want to do. Because you need to ask about his plans and he needs to ask about her plans. Then you can see, is there some link here? Can we work with this? Because, for example, in most cases, a person says, I'm going to go study abroad 6 years, 10 years. You might not ever call one place home. You may never build a home. But you might say, no, I'm actually looking to be settled and have a place that I can call home. That person is not going to be good for you. No matter how much you find them attractive, you have to be willing to say, okay, it might have been the first meeting, the first encounter I had with a person. I actually like them. They look good and I like their character. But when you realize there's no compatibility, you have to say, look, I'm sorry. And this is an important part of what, as well as doing it properly. Because when you have too much free mixing and becoming friends, yeah, she's my friend, and you're always talking, it becomes hard to say, I'm not interested. Because you're too emotionally invested. It's like you don't want to hurt people's feelings. No, you need to break the heart. Because it's going to be better you break it before you're married than you shatter it after. This is very important. You have to know what you want, what you're looking for. And you need to be preparing your questions from now. You need to be making your little book and ask 100 questions. There's no rush. Because as I mentioned, you're looking to spend the rest of your life with this person. So you need to make sure you've asked questions that facilitate you spending the rest of your life with this person. Even if you have to get help from someone, what to ask. You may have friends who are older than you, are married. Sisters, ask those sisters who are married, who have children, things that they wish they asked. Always ask, what do you wish you could have asked before? Always ask that question that you can get some advice. Or what are some of the things you think is important to know now that you're married? Go to those who have experience. Don't judge relationships from TV shows as well. This is very important. Some people build a fantasy. Some people have built a childhood fantasy of what they assume marriage is going to be like, or what they want their marriage to be like, based on a TV show or based on a movie. This was planned. This was directed. They chose the right actors for that. They chose the right statements. That person might be the tyrant in real life, but in the movie, he's the best husband. You have to know what you want. As brothers, whose example do we need to follow? Because the Prophet says the best of you are best to their wives. And I am the best of you to my wives. So again, our example is in the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. No one else. Even our own parents, they may be upholding a good marriage. You look at them, but then you also look further. How was the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam? Because things came out recently about the Prophet sometimes would wash up, cook for himself and these things. And it became important to know. Because some people, as I mentioned, they take the wife as a slave. And this is very important. You need to ask those questions as well. You see, it may not be an issue for you. You may say, I want to serve my husband. I don't mind cooking all the time. I'm used to that. That's how I saw my parents. That's how I was raised. Culturally, that's not a problem. But have that discussion. It's better it's something that you want to do than it being an expectation. Brothers, learn to cook. Yes. Ikhwa, men, learn how to cook. I'm a top chef. Yes, I throw it down. I'm telling you, learn how to cook. It's very important. You get married. Your wife is sick. Cook for her. I promise you, some are going to disagree, but I'm going to say this with chest. Men, when they know how to cook, are the best. So do it for your spouses. Because when we cook, we do it with pride. We don't want to make no mistakes. But don't be of those who can't cook. I know eggs, pasta, that's not cooking. I'm being serious, that's not cooking. If you can't cook rice, it's a problem. You need to learn how to cook. Because I can promise you, your wife is going to get sick. Your wife's going to get sick and your children's going to get sick. Takeaway is not going to make them better. It may be, Masha, you thought about me. You spent £50 on the food, but the food is junk. You spend £50 on pizza. That's making everyone even worse. There's no healing minerals in that food. you need to learn how to cook. When your wife has flu, she needs soup with pepper, not pizza. It's important. So if you don't know how to cook, learn how to cook. When you travel, sometimes you need to cook. Even as a general skill to have, cooking is something that is very good. You want to invite brothers to your house, don't make your wife cook everything, cook as well. I've got witnesses that I can cook. You have to be able to cook. I'm not saying it's wajib, but it's a good attribute to have. Because as we mentioned, there has to be ta'awun. And these are also from the things that will make your marriage last. Surprise your wife, breakfast in bed, and these things. Surprise them. These are the mental you have to have. Seriously. Yeah? Make sure you learn to cook. I know some people have already told me they can't cook. It's aib. Learn to cook. So these are the things that we have to take into consideration. So, also, those things that we have to observe, ways to build love and happiness within your marriage that are halal. Valentine's Day is what? Tomorrow, isn't it? See, even the asl of Valentine's Day, we can't even talk about it. It's unfortunate. The times we live in, we have to be careful what we say. But those who know, they know. But see, these things, they're not from Islam. And they are also a means, they may cause problems in your marriage. Why do I say that? If you want barakah to be in your marriage, the best way to get barakah is doing that which is pleasing to Allah. When you start to do things that are displeasing to Allah, these are of the means to remove the barakah from that thing. This day, one day, to show a person you love them. When I became Muslim, I was happy. No more Mother's Day, no more Father's Day, no more birthday, none of these stuff. It's easy, okay? You're going to oppress your wife for the whole year. One day I'm going to make it up to you. Next day I'm back to square one. One day I tell my mum, oh, I love you, mum. Here's some flowers. I've been a bad son. Just for the hour. Best believe tomorrow I'm being bad again. Whereas Islam teaches us that every day is a day of love. Every single day you love your mum. Every single day you love your spouse. Every single day, tajdeed al-iman, tajdeed al-mahabba. You have to always renew these things. Why? Because not every day is guaranteed. We know this as Muslims. But see these practices that are not from Islam. Man tashabbaha biqawmin fahuwa minhum. Whoever imitates a person, then he's from them. You're not missing out. Why do you have to wait till Valentine's Day to do something special? Do it every day, any other day. You might say every Friday we're going out. You have arrangement between you and your spouse. But one day a year, that is done by the kuffar, and it was of the worst of them. Where this day come from? It's the thing to do, you know. Everyone's doing it. Everyone's doing it means it's permissible. He was warned about taking these days as Eid. When the Prophet came back to Medina, he saw the companions celebrating some days. He said, "Kunna nahtafilu bi hadha al-yawmayn fi al-jahiliyyah." They said, we used to celebrate these 2 days in Jahiliyyah. And now the definition of an Eid is something that occurs repeatedly over a period of time. You see? That's why Yawm al-Jum'ah is a form of Eid. Salat al-Jum'ah, every Friday, appointed. You do something repeatedly over a period of time, the same time, over time, this becomes an Eid. The Prophet ﷺ told them, Allah has changed for you that which is better. Eid al-Fitr or Eid al-Adha. Celebrating birthdays, forget that. Celebrating Christmas and all this other stuff, forget that. One of the major issues we face today, when those people celebrate these things, when it comes to Eid al-Fitr and Eid al-Adha, it's dead. They spent all the money already on every other celebration that's not even permissible. Some people that celebrate birthdays, the birthday is more lit, as they say nowadays, than Eid. Or now the children in school have nothing to look forward to. Eid is boring. Oh, they're getting so excited about Christmas, Easter. Your son and your daughters are never getting excited about Eid because you've made it boring. These are the things that Allah has given us. We have to make the most of it. And they are from the sha'air of Islam. They are from those significant signs of Islam. When you look at some, for example, they always want to show the bad image of Islam. When do you see them showing Hajj? And how much Muslims are all doing the same act of ibadah? How many times do you see them showing Eid in the park? There's like 10,000 Muslims praying in the park, all loving each other for the sake of Allah. If we do not give importance to that which Allah has made permissible for us, then we are not going to show any beauty of Islam. If we are not choosing the correct spouses, knowing what to look for, we don't even show that Muslims can have a good, positive relationship where women are not being oppressed. Because that's the narrative. They believe every woman who's married is being oppressed. She's forced to wear what she wears. She was wearing it before she was married. She wears it because it's pleasing to Allah. It's an obligation from Allah. It shouldn't be that you're doing it for your husband. Do it for Allah. Don't think that you're not practicing. Okay, the way I'm going to practice, I'm going to get married. That's going to straighten me out. Or I'm going to wait till I get married. When I get married, I'm going to cover properly. I'm going to practice. I'm going to pray. Marriage does not make you a better Muslim. It's what you learn, and that makes you fear Allah. And then you start to implement. That's what makes you a better Muslim. Marriage will be better if you're better. The better you are as a person, the better you are, the better you will find a spouse. For those who are bad and evil. So you have to ask yourself, in general, ask yourself, I want to get married. Write it down so you can see it. Am I ready for marriage? What am I looking for? Ask yourself a number of questions. How soon do I want to get married? Am I ready to get married that soon? What's my stability like? What's my plans? What am I actually looking for? How am I planning to get married? You see, as I said to you, if you have family members who are Muslim, that's the first people you speak to. Not these apps, not the opposite gender in school or in your workplace. Speak to your family. Those you have are right over you. Those, especially as women, those who are your guardians. Brothers, don't approach the sister. Approach the guardian. If you know the sister has a brother, approach the brother. You know who their father is, approach the father. You know who the uncle is, approach the uncle. Or you know someone who knows their family, approach them. Or you might have a sister, get your sister to speak to the sister. Don't go and speak to them yourself. And I don't care really if you heard otherwise. Some people say, no, you can go and talk to them. It's best not to. And some give the permissibility in a rare situation when you 100% know that they are not married. And also, you have to know that no one is actually showing interest in them. Because these are times you're not allowed to show interest to a person. And when a sister is being addressed for marriage by someone else, you are not allowed to come and talk to that person. Not allowed. So these things, it's best to do it the correct way. And when I say sometimes sisters, you have to approach your parents. Sometimes your parents have got a plan for you, but they haven't spoke to you about it because they don't know that you're ready. So you need to have that discussion with them. Sometimes another issue that we have, some cultures don't allow you to marry outside that culture. Some countries don't want you to marry outside that country. If you do not feel equipped to discuss that matter with your parents, speak to someone of knowledge and ask if your parents will be willing to speak to them about this issue. Because even a part of marriage, the daughter still needs to be pleased with who they get married to. And brothers, sometimes you have to kind of stand strong. as it's your decision. So don't say, oh, I'm going to marry someone my mum wants me to marry, as a brother I'm talking to, just because it's going to make my mum happy. But you know you're not going to be happy. That's going to lead to divorce. So you have to know. Tell your parents as well, you know what? The most important thing for me is the religion. I don't care where that person comes from. Because there's ayat in the Quran. Allah has made us from different nations and tribes for us to get to know each other. And then Allah says, Inna akramakum indallahi atqakum. The most noble of you in the eyes of Allah Azza wa Jal are those who fear Allah the most. These are the steps you need to take. The most important step you take for marriage is rectifying your relationship with Allah. Second step, you want to get married, start to study everything you need to learn about marriage. Learn the rights that each person has upon each other. And when you learn these things, when you go to meetings or your encounters with the potential spouse, you need to be asking if they know these things. Because this is going to cause an argument. You might get married, but the person you're marrying doesn't know the rights you have upon them. So you raise it as an issue and he's like, I didn't know that. Can you get angry at them now? No, because you should have done your homework. That's something you should have known in advance. So when it comes to marriage, you want to get married? Go and study a book on the rules of marriage. Because now, when we said talab al-ilm, faridatun ala kulli Muslim, seeking knowledge is an obligation upon every Muslim. When you want to get married, seeking knowledge about marriage is now an obligation for you because you want to do the action. It becomes an obligation for you to now seek knowledge about marriage. From the most important things, the rules of marriage. What's the ruling of marriage? For some people it's wajib, for some people it's mustahab, for some people haram. There's conditions that certain people can't get married. You're going to have to learn these things. Okay, what's the rights of the husband? What's the rights of the wife? So then you know, okay, let's say, for example, it's upon the husband to sustain his wife financially, clothing, housing, food. You need to get a job if you don't have one. So a part of you learning this, now you know what you need to do. Okay? Other rights, you come to be aware of them when you go through a book of marriage. Even this is general advice as an introduction. Now, because I'm assuming those who come, majority of you may be wanting to get married at some point. Whether it's when you finish uni, whether it's while you're in uni. Mashallah, I met a brother here last time I came last week, and the next thing I saw him in the masjid, he said, yeah, I'm getting married today. Al-Mubtasim. You see? Everyone has their time, but you have to make sure you're ready. Learn the rights that you have and the rights that are upon you to make sure that you're fulfilling them. And you've put the things in place you need to put in place that you're ready to fulfill them. And when it comes to marriage, just look for those who possess deen. One, don't get married for looks solely. There has to be some form of attraction, as it may affect you later if you don't have any attraction to that person. But that's not your priority, because the religion always beautifies things. When a person is practicing their Islam and they have good character, this will always make a person beautiful. Also, don't marry for your desires. As I advise that person, someone said to me, you know, it's hard, just get married. No, advise that person to fast. Anyone who tells you, I'm thinking about marriage is hard, tell that person to go and fast. And tell them they need to fast properly. Because Allah said, Prophet said, Man lam yada' qawl az-zur wal amal bihi fa inna Allah laysa bihajatin ila an yada' ta'amahu wa sharabahu. Whoever does not leave off idle speech, false witness, and acting upon this, then Allah is not in need of him leaving off his food and drink, showing that fasting is more than not eating and not drinking. And in another hadith, when in the hadith al-Qudsi, Allah said, As-siyam junnatun. The siyam is a protection. Siyam will protect you from your desires. It's a way to suppress your desires. So if you're young and you do not have those, we're of the age, you can get married on the other meaning of being of that age, you can have that relationship. But then in terms of having the means and the supplies to get married, are you ready? And this is also from the dangers of building a relationship with someone without going on the correct route. You will say, for example, oh, don't worry about it, oh, it will work out. I like you, I really like you. You should never have allowed it to get to that stage that you find yourself in that position. Don't let it get to that stage. You see, always go down the correct channel. And best believe, the most important thing I'm going to tell you, there is no rush. Take your time. Make sure you feel confident that you're making the right decision, because this is not a small one. And it also means, yes, the best of the dowries, the mahar, the wedding gift, the bridal gift are the easiest ones. This doesn't mean just say, yeah, if you memorize this surah, I'm happy. Or just give me some dates. No, because give yourself some value, that a person knows that this is a serious step. And that is in your discretion, what you feel will define that for you. And brothers, don't be cheap. Don't be cheap, like, because if you want to marry someone, you best believe that they're worth it. So don't be cheap. It's not no quick £100 thing. Put some effort into it. You see? Put effort into it. That it shows that you're serious about this thing. Because the times that we're living in, divorces become common. And it's become easier. Because some of us were young when we learned about when we got married. We didn't know these things. No one told us. As I said to you, some of the things that I will tell you now, no one told me. And I speak to my friends, no one told us. We wasn't prepared. Don't think every day is going to be blooming, blissful. Some days are going to be hard. But as I mentioned to you, it's a partnership. So if your husband's going through a hard time, you're sharing that experience with him. You're not making it harder. When your wife's going through a hard time, you're sharing that experience. You're not adding to the trouble and the pain and the stress. Always in it, remember, it's a partnership making one. The pain that each of you feel it together. For example, you married your husband, he's working. He loses his job. Don't add to the stress. Perhaps help him get a job. Ask him, what are you looking for? I can spend some time doing job search for you. But you as a man, don't say, I'm stressed, I can't be asked. No, you still got to maintain that right. So if you lose your job, you look for another one. You don't sit and do nothing. You have to show that you're taking care of your responsibilities. If it means it takes you a year to get a job, it took you a year to get a job, but you looked for a job for a year. You didn't sit down for a year. These are the things you have to be preparing for. You see? So even while you're in studies, you might say, boy, the reality is, okay, I'm studying. Maybe for some of you, the only money that you have is if you got a student loan. That's the money you have. That's not money you can say, I'm going to get married with. Why? Because that's temporary. It's not secure. You see, it's going to come to an end. Some of you are getting pocket money. You're at that age, you still get pocket money. You can't be dependent on pocket money for marriage. You have to start taking that step, responsibility. Now you're accountable. All of these things you need to be prepared for. Ask yourself that, are you ready? And if you're not ready, it's not a bad thing. Take your time, take those steps to get ready, inshallah ta'ala. So, in general, the last thing that we'll talk about is looking. Looking at the opposite gender. As the Prophet ﷺ, when someone came to and asked about marriage, he said, have you seen them? And he said, no. And he said, go and look at them to see if they are pleasing to you. In general, I would personally advise sisters, if they say, let me see your hair, say no. And I'm talking about on the level of amana, of trust. Some may say it's permissible. Some say only the face and the hands. Some say only the face, the hands, the feet. You see? Because when the Prophet told them to go and look for that which was apparent from them. how they will be dressed in front of their maharim. You see, don't just get married to someone randomly. You don't know if you're attracted to them. You've never seen what they look like. This is what is intended here. You can't just get married. You don't know what the person looks like, because it may have an effect later. You're not attracted to that person, then it's easy to say, yeah, I don't even want to be with you. Have an argument, I don't find you attractive anyway. Both ways. But the priority is what? The religion. The priority is looking for a person's practice of the religion. And that's when you'll find that which will please you and have a marriage that is strong and maintained. If the marriage is governed by the deen, then that will always be the judging factor. Always. So if you're not ready, you need to get ready. Especially if you want to do it. You want to get married, get ready for marriage. If it means you need to, you have certain characteristics you have to change. You see, some of us are young, especially men, because sometimes men don't behave like men. We have to start behaving like men. If you're with your companion, you still like, some people have a bad boy attitude. It's become quite common nowadays. Some people like to look rough and cool and stuff. This is not the way. From the ways of the Muslim, you have a smiley face. When you meet your brother, you're smiling. You have a good measure in your step, and you don't walk with arrogance. You're not loud. You don't just have a loud mouth. Everyone can hear you and they haven't even seen you yet. And I'll tell you, because even today in the prayer room, as soon as Salah is finished, it sounds like a house party. Everyone's shouting, and there's still people praying. These things are not befitting, but these are the characteristics you have to adorn yourself with. If you've never read the book on Islamic mannerisms, go and read that. That's part of your preparation for marriage. Because those adab is what beautifies you. Being someone of mercy. Go and study these things. Think about it like this. You're bettering yourself to give you better prospects in marriage. You better yourself first, and this will open the door for goodness for you. But if you're not that person, don't expect, as I mentioned, don't expect Khadija and you're not behaving like Umar and Abu Bakr, and vice versa. If that's what you want, then make sure you're fulfilling that yourself. Make sure you're playing the part yourself. Inshallah. And we'll stop with that. That is sufficient to plant a good seed. Inshallah. And sometimes when too much is said, too much is forgotten. So if anyone has any questions on the topic, nothing else, then it's welcomed, inshallah. And if I can't answer, I'll tell you I can't answer. Don't be mad at me.
You mentioned in terms of jealousy or married on friends. What do you mean?
For example, you want to get married to Zainab. Your friend knows everything about Zainab because of you. They know what Zainab looks like. They haven't even seen her. You like, oh, look, this is Zainab. Why are you showing them a picture for? Stuff like this. You see what I'm saying? You have to have some honor. Why should your friend know your potential wife as you know them? And when you get married, don't tell your friends about what happens in your household. That's protective jealousy. You see, not controlling. There's a difference. Some people control. That's not jealousy. You see, everything's controlling. Give the wife a curfew like it's a child. It's not your child, it's your wife, your companion. It's not your servant. You see, you're making one. You see. Any other questions?
Before someone gets married, they might do a lot of good deeds. No one can see it. So they might be memorizing the Quran. They might be doing the life, etc., etc. And then they get married, especially if the wife's family isn't that practicing, even the wife herself. They're getting a lot of compliments. He's always in the last year, he's always doing this, he's always doing that. All these good deeds which you tried to hide before, now there's someone else, your wife, you're seeing you getting out there that night. How do you protect your heart from Shaitan constantly trying to put showing off into your worship?
In general, alhamdulillah, if it's something you had as a practice before you even got married, that's who you are. When it becomes known because of other people, this is not really your fault. However, you can kind of manipulate what happens next in terms of teaching someone not to praise you, not to compliment you, and tell them that the harms that it can cause, you see, like that. But it's a constant battle. The hardest thing is ikhlas. Why? Inna nafsa la'ammaratun bis-su'. The soul is inclined to evil. So it's a constant battle that you are fighting with yourself to have ikhlas. And also, the greatest cure for it is that you ask Allah. Ya muqallib al-qulub, thabbit qalbi ala ta'atik. Allahumma inni ala dhikrik wa shukrik wa husni ibadatik. Make these things fluent on your tongue, you see. And try your best to hide what you can hide. If people see it, khalas, they see it. But you know you're doing it for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And you always remind yourself and ask Allah to make you sincere. Inshallah.
I wanted to know, how far can you take relations with your spouse before you decide to get
There's no relations.
married?
That's as far as it cannot go.
How you know who you get married to?
Then you have meetings, supervised meetings.
Before you get married?
Yeah.
Like what? Not supervised?
No. No walks in the park.
None of that.
None of that. No cinema. No Nando's. You can have Nando's with the father. Yeah. The dad's there. That's cool. But as for private, no.
About over the phone.
Nope. With the dad there, freeway cool. Everything supervised. If the dad's there, it's all good. All good. Or someone who's responsible for them.
What about in a group? About friends?
No. Your friends are not responsible for them. And neither are their friends. It's good questions because everyone needs to know this.
Music was powerful.
Not supervised. Because what's going to happen? This is the narrative. You start talking. I like you, you know. Oh, you're so this. That's what the conversation becomes. I can't wait to be married to you, you know. Oh, man. I'm always thinking about you. That's not the way of the sun. That's not how it's supposed to be done.
So how do you meet the person?
How do you meet the person?
You can't talk to them.
No, it's good. So as I said, one, we rectify our relationship with Allah. We make sure that we're practicing Islam properly, to the best of our ability. From that now, what country are you from? So alhamdulillah, I'm assuming you have a Muslim family. Do you have sisters? How old is she?
19.
You're good. You see, you're good. Ask your sister. For you, because it's your question, you need to ask your sister. Also, ask your parents, your uncles. There's too much avenues for you as a Muslim, with a Muslim family. There's no excuse. I'm never going to say, don't worry, you can go holler at that one. Abadan.
Let's just say someone was getting to know someone else, but they didn't at first. They didn't like the parents who was in charge of the girl. Let's just say the guy was getting to know the other person, and they had the intention to marry whatever, and then they decided to go speak to their father or whatever. Is that could you say still permissible?
No, why is she talking to you? How do you get to know each other?
Let's just say they're getting to know each other.
How? It's not supposed to happen. And the thing, that's what I'm saying. So it's not that I can't say it's permissible. The issue is now, let's say it's happening. Qadr, you didn't know. You wasn't aware that you're supposed to go through this avenue. But now you've come to know. Straight away, you say to that person, either you need to speak to your dad or I need to speak to him before we have any further conversation. Now that you know, that stops and it goes down the correct avenue. Because this is what's going to happen as a father. I'm looking, I got 2 daughters, alhamdulillah. If my daughter come to me and say, look, I want to marry this person, I'm like, okay, how do you even start talking to them? You want to marry? I don't even know the guy yet. So imagine I don't like him because he might not pray 5 times a day. But she's in love with him because pillow talk, late night phone calls, they went to the bowling place, they were in Nando's, and I didn't know. They've built a relationship. They've got to know each other. Obviously, they now want to get married because they like each other. So now they're talking to me. I might say, are you mad? Like, you've just took all my authority. As a father, you've just basically not let me do what I've been waiting 18 years maybe of my daughter's life to do. You just took that away from me. So even if you're good, I might not like you just because of that. You see? It's important you go down the correct channels to the best of your ability. You see? If you've already started talking to someone, get the parents involved immediately. Some parents allow it. They say, get to know the person first. And then once you feel like you may be inclined to this person, then I'm going to come and speak to them. Because they might think, okay, first time, there's no need for me to really be there. But it still needs to be supervised if that's the process beforehand. You see, it can't just be one-to-one. It has to be supervised.
I wanted to ask, in terms of, nowadays in the society we live in, men and women both work. So what would you say, for example, I know one brother, he had an issue of his wife and more than him, so that she always do that. So whenever they have an argument, that's the first statement she makes.
That's a problem in itself. Because she has to know the only reason that she earns more than him is because Allah facilitated that for her. وَأَمَّا بِنِعْمَةِ رَبِّكَ فَحَدِّثْ. As for the virtue of the bounty of Allah, then you speak about this and you return it back to Allah. You see? So that's why I say, example, know the person. Because if I knew that was your characteristic, I would never have married you. I'm going to ask you that question because it's a reality. I watched a documentary years ago, a situation where women were saying, we will not marry a man. They earn 6 figures if he doesn't earn 6 figures too. He might earn 5 figures, but she earns 6 figures. That's your mentality? Of course I'm not going to marry you. Because I can see already you're just about money. You're just about dunya. So, and I'm earning 5 figures, that's still a lot. Because it's not the same, it's not because it's not more than you, it's a problem. And if I'm working hard, it might just be that my specialty doesn't earn as much as your specialty. And if you're going to use that over me, then you've got an issue. Because the real issue is now, a woman's wealth, a man's wealth. Who's one who's responsible to provide? The man. If she wants to help, that's her choice. She's not compelled to do so. But for her to use it as a means of belittling, then this becomes an issue. And I can guarantee one day he's going to say, I've had enough of this. Bye. You see? So when it comes to working as well, you have to understand, these are the things you ask. If you don't want your wife to ever work, then you make sure you work and you do what you're supposed to do so they don't ever feel that they have to do that. You see? And if you do allow them to work, what capacity do you allow them to work in? And again, don't build false insecurities, because sometimes this is a major issue. You don't trust your wife because of insecurities you've built in your own head. You should build a relationship where you trust one another. It's important. And that is not broken unless something is clearly breaking it, not just hypothetical things. You see? That's a question you have to ask. How do you feel if you earned more money than me? You have to ask that question. See?
I've got a question. What's your advice on, the way like marrying someone from ethnicity is fine as long as they're Muslim, but like, a lot of parents would prefer that you marry within your own culture, such ethnicity. Let's say the parents aren't happy with it. Let's say one parent is happy with it, but the other one isn't. They're firmly against it. What would be advice?
Try and convince them. Take your time. There's no rush.
What if they stop?
Ask Allah.
What if they stop? So
Get someone of knowledge to speak to them. Get another older family member to speak to them who sees the other way around. See what I'm saying? It's not easy. But there's times I've heard some scholars say if the father, for example, was preventing, so there's a question there behind you, I think, on the table. If they're preventing the daughter from marrying someone based on culture, but the person's good for them, then sometimes the guardianship will be removed from them Islamically. But it's only to be done by those in authority, not by the daughter and the person themselves. Yeah. Does someone else have a question?
Yeah, Sheikh, you mentioned
Not sheikh, sorry. I forgot to tell you, the word sheikh is not allowed to be used with me. Your brother is good.
You mentioned earlier the guy said he has a sister and they can use her as a medium to introduce people to help them find. What if you're here alone in this country? For example, myself, I'm a student. I'm here alone. My family all over back home. I have nobody else.
So do you want to get married in this country or back home?
Good question.
That's the first question. It's important.
So, you see sister here, you just see her practicing, you're practicing as well, and you like, just by looking at her, you like her.
Yes.
How do you approach her?
How do you approach her?
Yeah, and you're here alone.
Ask your friend who has a sister to ask their sister.
We don't have any common friends.
No. Your friend that you have, ask if he has a sister.
Yeah.
Sometimes there's relatives. And do it that way. Worst case scenario, write a note and run. Don't leave a number, email address. Get your wali to contact me. That's it. Worst case scenario.
Sorry, this one was asked already at the race. What to do with an unserious candidate that promises marriage?
What to do?
Unserious candidate that promises marriage.
An unserious candidate that promises marriage. Promises marriage.
Maybe they just
They're unserious, but they promised marriage. That's an unserious promise. Forget them. Don't waste your time.
Is it haram to meet if the third person is not a mahram of the sister?
Is it haram to meet if the third person is not a mahram of the sister? No, because the person who's supervising the meeting might be an imam of the masjid or someone entrusted by the father. You see? But it goes through the father. Is it haram to meet if the third person is not mahram? Because there's cases where the wali is the imam of the local masjid. You see, sometimes they're not mahram. But if the wali is present, then there needs to be a communication has occurred with the wali. Not that you're doing a back alley thing, no. And you're just getting a friend to supervise it, no. There has to be some permission from the parent.
It's 20,000 reasonable for mahar, Great British pounds.
MashaAllah. Allah Mubarak.
It's £20,000 reasonable for mahar.
Is £20,000 reasonable for mahar? If a person's income is £120,000 a year, then maybe. But ask yourself, are you trying to rob them before marriage? Look at the general means of what is considered a dowry, generally speaking, and then measure it upon that. It's not a business. And I'll tell you, some people make the mahar a family business. Sometimes when that's 20,000, best believe auntie's getting 2, mum's getting 5, dad's getting 6. You have to be just. And you also, when you get to know a person, you'll know their means. You'll know their means.
Sorry, I just want to clarify something before. Is it haram, to meet or get to know someone in public with that person that you're trying to know? Now, you're allowed to meet up in public, get to know each other in public.
In public is not This is the public.
This is a public, yeah.
This is not a means of getting to know a person.
So let's say a restaurant, that's a public.
Yeah, that's not a means of getting to know someone. Unless the dad's there or someone's there responsible, then no. The public's not responsible for her. The public is not listening to your conversation.
So it's haram.
I'm not saying it's haram. I'm not a mufti.
Yeah, that's what I'm trying to clarify.
Stay away from it.
So I should stay away from it.
Stay away from it. If it's haram, you have to ask the people of Fatawa. In general, as advice, don't ask people like me, anyone like me, for if something is haram or halal. We're not qualified to do so. And we have to know our level. And unfortunately today, many don't. And they're going to tell you it's haram. No, I'm not going to tell you it's haram. Even the scholars of the past didn't like to say it's haram. They'll say it's makruh. Why? Because when I say it's halal or it's haram, I've taken a ruling on behalf of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. This is dangerous. Sufficient that there's issues is that you know to stay away from it. Does stepdad count as a wali? If the dad is not there, then yes.
Same one, innit?
If the dad is allowing it, then it's not the mum's decision. So someone asked if my mum does not allow it because the person's from a different culture, do I leave it? If the dad is allowing it, then it's not the mum's decision.
Does stepdad count as wali?
Does stepdad count as wali? If there's no other male, then yes. There's no grandfather or uncle or brother. If none of them is present, then potentially yes.
How to overcome cultural differences within a marriage?
Address those issues before you get married. If you know you're marrying someone who's got a different culture as you, then you have to ask about that. You have to ask about those cultural differences. And cultural differences in general, if it doesn't contradict the Sharia, if it's not haram, then no problem. You have to accept it. If you don't like it, that's a different issue. But talk about it, it's communication.
If a sister does not have a wali, no brothers and no fathers, no uncles, what should she do?
Go to the local masjid and ask the imam. Or go to a masjid that is established and go and speak to the imam and see if they offer that service where the imam would act as her wali.
I heard that the best of marriages is the one made easiest. So if the family refuse the potential spouse for cultural reasons and it causes trouble, should it be left alone?
We have the Sharia Council in the UK. Go to these people. The Sharia Council, because as I mentioned to you, one sheikh, he came and he said, someone asked him the same question. And he said, if the parents refuse to allow a good potential spouse to marry for no legitimate reason, the waliship can be removed from them. But that will be done by those like the Sharia Council, not me, not you. So you take your case to them.
What are the virtues of marrying someone divorced? Would you recommend it?
Marrying someone divorced, virtues. If you want to say there's a virtue, it needs evidence. The Prophet ﷺ said, marry those who will bear children and are loving. If someone's divorced, it is not necessarily a bad thing. Because sometimes it just didn't work out. The issue is if a person is a tyrant and being divorced. This is different. Or if a person has evil ways that led to the divorce. Someone being divorced is not an issue. It means that they didn't work for that person, but they may work for you. They may be compatible for you. So don't make that your decisive factor because a person's been divorced. Sometimes it will make you feel you have to kind of know why, what led you to get divorced. So you can get an understanding as if that's going to happen to you. Is that going to happen to you? But as for virtue and stuff, that's a different issue. There needs evidence for that.
During the initial meeting, when given scenarios, the guy might just be saying what he thinks you want to hear or not answer honestly. Can you test him, for example, to test his patience by talking slowly or try to make him mad?
The talking slowly one sounds cool. Try to make him mad. I don't know what your idea of that is, so that's scary. So I would say, take your time and consult Allah. You have to ask Allah to show the reality of that person. And this is the reality of praying istikhara. When you pray istikhara, you will come to know. When you pray istikhara, you will come to know if someone's good or bad. Allah will expect, because you're asking Allah to give you that which is best for you, and that is someone who's good for you. And if they're not good for you, to remove them from you, and to remove it from your heart. You have to pray istikhara. Don't come with this, I'm certain though, I like them, I want them, I'm certain, I don't need to pray istikhara. No, you pray istikhara. It's very important.
Does your wali have to be your father? Can it be another mahram? For example, if you trust another mahram more or have a better relationship with another mahram than your father.
Your father. Your wali is your father. Unless it's been taken from them by a way that is Islamically legitimate.
Let's say you come to London to study, and after studies, you are returning to your country. Meanwhile, in London, you find a girl you want to marry, and she doesn't plan to leave London and move with you. What would you advise?
Don't get married to them. Wait till you go back home.
If your father is not in his right state of mind due to
Drug abuse.
Drug abuse, do you still trust him as your wali?
This is obviously maybe a means that if you take to the Sharia council, they may remove that waliship from that person. But not for you to do it. You have to go through the process. Alhamdulillah, we have Sharia council. That's their job. That's the things that they will deal with. Take your case to them. Because I'm not going to say yes, and then you go and you run off my thing. No. I'm not here. My thing is a general advice from a brother to my brothers and sisters. As for me giving you rules to give you the go-ahead for anything, no, it's not going to happen.
In this day and age, how do I approach a potential partner for hand in marriage realistically and as a woman? And can a sister approach for marriage?
A sister can approach for marriage as one of the Prophet's wives approached him. So, one of the Prophet's wife came to him and offered herself to him in marriage. So it is permissible. However, how you do it now is the issue. If you have a brother, a father, or someone who can do it on your behalf, or you have a way to get a note there, then you do that. But don't exchange numbers. If you do this paper thing, don't put numbers there. Put an email address. Put an email address. And if you have a wali, put the email address of your wali, not your email address.
I heard, you know, I understand that when you're meeting up with the person you want to speak to, you have to have a mahram. That's a mahram. But I heard that mahram doesn't have to be, for example, let's say I'm at a restaurant and I'm at a table with her. Mahram doesn't have to be on my table.
It could be not far, it has to be to hear you. They have to be to hear the conversation. Not too far.
I heard that you don't have to see close, but they understand.
Yeah, no, they have to hear what you're talking about. That conversation has to be monitored. Don't worry, because you can put it over there. Did you say Sheikh?
You know, walima. What does it like briefly consist of? Because obviously now
A walima consists of food and drink and making the marriage known.
so no party.
What party are you going to have? Music?
Nowadays, you see parties, mostly
What kind of party?
like dancing.
Are you going to dance?
Yeah, dancing.
Even if you could dance, don't dance. No, I'm joking. Walima is to be done halal. The sisters can have the daf. No music. None of these fake nasheed artists. None of these Muslim musicians. They are disobeying Allah. When I studied in Morocco, I remember my friend, he said this. And he said to his potential wife, he said to her, look, I want this marriage to be blessed by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. If I hear that there was free mixing at your wedding, the sister's party side of it, and music, even if I hear 4 years later you're going back to your dad's house. Because it's serious. If you start your marriage upon haram, where's the khair going to come from? There's no party. There's no party. There's barakallahu lak, barakallahu alayk, wa jama'a baynukuma ala khair. And food and drink. As for the sisters, they can have the duff and do their thing. With sisters only. It's disgusting what I've been seeing. The search button, whatever is on Instagram, what it's showing you of some of the weddings that Muslims are doing. It's disgusting. 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 Ask about that as well when you're going to get married.
What would you say about bridal showers, baby showers?
Bridal showers, baby showers. Bridal showers is different. Baby showers, no. Bridal showers is just something that sisters do in preparation for the wedding. Henna and stuff. No problem. As for baby showers, then no. In Islam, we have been given procedures to be done once the baby is born. And baby showers, from what I looked into, is a Hindu practice. It originally comes from Hindus, the baby shower thing. It's become common. Who's it become common by? Kuffar. Oh, it's gonna tell you it's gonna be a boy, it's gonna be a girl. And the reality is, do you want me to tell what a baby shower is? What people do? Baby showers is usually done by broke people as well. Because they want everyone to come and give them gifts, give them money, buy them clothes. You see? Stay away from the baby shower. Even if it's not clear cut to say it's haram, it's a doubtful matter. When I tried to research it, I found myself, it's known to be a Hindu practice. It was a Hindu practice. Within Islam, we have what? The aqiqah. You slaughter 2 sheep if it's a boy, 1 if it's a girl. You can either distribute that or you can chef it up. Last 2 questions.
Is it allowed to send a mahram from your side to your potential spouse for a set period of time to get to know them?
Like your mum.
I send my sister to the spouse.
Yeah, what's wrong with that?
Like a day.
That's cool. 100%. I'll recommend that. And tell your sister what to look for as well. So she'd look for these kind of behaviors and these things. It's not that's good.
What would you advise brother who wants to get married, but before he gets married, taking care of his family, for example, so financially wants because of the responsibility and that because of how he feels towards that in terms of wanting to look after his mother and his father financially, look after his siblings and whatnot.
If you're the oldest of the family and you're in a situation where it's needed for you to support them, but you have enough finance, then you make it known to the potential wife. But then you may not go full board on your family. You know what I'm saying? You provide for them in a way that's sufficient. But also you have to, because you can't sacrifice getting married if you need to get married, for example, for that. You know what I'm saying? Because you're not neglecting them. You're still doing it. But you might not do it as much. You might do it in a way that facilitates you to have a marriage life as well. You see? So you have to measure up your finances. Because those things are never going to stop. As a child, if your parent calls upon you that they're in need financially, if you have the ability, you have to answer that call. You see? One last question, if there is one. Anyone else? Or we give it to the brother. Going.
You know, if you're married and you're not ready to have kids, you always say that.
Allah knows best. I'm not qualified to answer that question. I've asked personally before, so I only share what I've been given. In terms of in our time today, some will recommend that you don't hasten to have children. It's not, but don't take too long, and unless there's a need. You see, sometimes it's based on a need. Why you'll delay it and the likes. And that's all I'll say. But best thing to do, don't go to Western scholars. Go to credible scholars and ask that question, inshallah. Inshallah, I'm off to Saudi tomorrow. I'll try to ask for you, inshallah. Jazakallah khair. I'll try to ask for you, inshallah. خلاص. جزاكم الله خيرا. سبحانك اللهم وبحمدك اشهد ان لا اله الا انت استغفرك واتوب اليك. السلام عليكم ورحمه الله وبركاته.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Barakallahu feekum everyone for coming. If I could just have your attention for a moment. Barakallahu feekum everyone for coming. Also, jazakallah khair.